I've started a lot of businesses over the last 13 years, and not a single one of them has really gone anywhere. They've had varying levels of success, and I've had varying levels of interest, but ultimately, they didn't succeed. And there are a few different reasons for that. Before we go into any detail, I'm going to list off just some of the businesses I've started over the last 13 years. Starting off really strong with a makeup blog when I was 21. We're talking right at the height of my entrepreneurship days and when I knew that I wanted to do something for myself. I started this makeup blog. I started it on WordPress. It was a WordPress hosted blog, and I wrote quite a few articles in there and it did start getting some traction, but ultimately I was very, very green. I had no idea how blogs worked and were monetized. And by the time I realized that a few months in, having written loads of articles or blog posts and having gained quite an audience, I then realized that there was no way for me to monetize this blog without moving it onto a self hosted website. I couldn't be bothered to do that, or life got in the way. I lost interest, and that was the end of that. Once I knew a little bit more about websites, I decided to start another website a little bit later on, a few years later. And this particular website was going to be about organization, motivation, productivity. I've always been the same. I've very much loved this niche since an early age, but I randomly called this blog London Routine. I don't know where I was going with that name, but anyway, lost interest. It flopped. A couple of years later, I decided that I would start a notebook business, and this notebook business was tangible notebooks that I actually crafted myself. I really enjoyed making these notebooks when they were a hobby, and I thought that it would be a really good idea. People love handmade stuff. I thought that I could sell them on Etsy, but when the orders actually started coming in and people did start ordering the notebooks, it was very, very unscalable. In fact, if I got anything more than like 2 orders a week, I was on my ass. Like, I couldn't keep up with it because it was taking me probably an hour to make one notebook because I was being such a perfectionist about it, and I was wasting a whole lot of materials as well, which isn't good. Self sabotaged and stopped doing that. As a side note, I do still make notebooks for myself from time to time because that is much more enjoyable than making them for actual paying customers. When I realized, however, that making notebooks for people could be potentially interesting, I decided that I would try and enter the digital notebook and the digital journal space. And made some really good, in my opinion, digital planners and journals. But it was so heavily saturated, not to say that you couldn't make a success out of this, but I just wanted instant results and lost interest. Then it's still going. I created an art prints business, and I made my own pictures, drawings. I drew them myself, and I decided to sell these on Etsy and on my own website. So, surprise, surprise, I bought another domain and hosted another website where I was going to be selling the art prints. Again, this gained a little bit of traction and it probably would have gone further. I started a TikTok for it. I even think I did a couple of YouTube videos, but again, lost interest. I could keep going, but if any of this is resonating with anyone here, then I'm actively trying to change this about myself. And I want to let you know some of the things that I have been doing that I believe are working. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is mindset and changing the way that you think versus the actual business idea that you're coming up with. Um, Everyone is different and everyone is going to have different ideas of what kind of business and entrepreneurship, and even it doesn't have to lean into business, it can lean into just hobbies, fitness routines, exercise routines, eating habits, stuff like that, and why you can't seem to stick with the things that you seem to so desperately want. So let's go through that. First and foremost, this is clearly a pattern, and we need to identify the pattern before we try and solve it, right? So when you have an idea of something that you want to create in your life, whether that is a new business, whether that's a new fitness hobby that you want to take up, they're just a couple of examples. That initial idea hits and you get excited about it and you get a dopamine release and you think, yeah, I'm going to make something of this and I'm going to give this a real go. When you launch that idea, so perhaps when you've gone your first couple of runs, or perhaps even when you're buying your exercise outfit, or when you're buying that domain and you're thinking of what the business could be called, stuff like that, that's still really exciting and novel, and you're thinking about all the possibilities that can come with this new thing. However, once you've kind of done that initial setup, that initial preparation, the grind starts to set in. You have to do stuff now. You're not just setting it up anymore, you're actively trying to make it happen. And I mentioned this in a previous video. It's something like playing The Sims. If you've ever played The Sims, you know how exciting it is to make your house, make your characters, choose their outfits, all of that stuff. And then when it comes to actually playing The Sims, I personally found it really quite boring. It was fun for a little while, but ultimately I just wanted to make another house again, and I wanted to make another family. This is where interest starts to evaporate, and that's when the next idea usually appears, because that feels now more exciting than the current one that you've got, because the current one is getting a little bit stale and not as exciting anymore because it's new, not because it's better. Again, does this sound familiar? Because this is very much the cycle that I usually find myself in. Now, why does this happen to us? Is the age-old question. There are a few different reasons for this that I've discovered about myself. Your reasons might be different, but I feel that these could be quite universal for most people. First and foremost, elephant in the room. Novelty is the addiction. You are addicted to new things because they are exciting. Starting something new feels incredible. You have all the different hopes and dreams of what this is going to look like for yourself in 6 months, a year, 5 years. You don't think about the next few weeks necessarily. And I know for me, this is a key thing. As soon as I have a new idea, I immediately start running the numbers as to what this is going to look like for me in a year, 5 years, even 10 years. And I don't necessarily think about what the next 2 weeks is going to look like, or the next month, or the next 6 months. Because those months are boring. Those months aren't life-changing. I'm very much at the bottom of the J curve, and I'm not going to be seeing any results for a while. So why would I want to be thinking about that? I want to be thinking about when things are going to be fabulous with my brand new idea. When the outcomes of the next 5 years don't actually come to fruition in the next 3 months, I start losing interest. And my logical brain understands why this is the case. Of course, it's not working yet. It's only been 3 months. But then doubt starts to creep in, and I start to think to myself, oh, maybe I've chosen the wrong idea. And I start to pivot or come up with other ideas that I think are going to work better. The second reason that I think I end up self-sabotaging and stopping ideas before they've got anywhere is because I'm trying to avoid failure, because I don't want to let myself down. If I don't stick around to see this idea flop, then it didn't flop. I just decided not to pursue it anymore, which was my decision. So it kind of gives me that control back. And in my head, this protects me, but it's actually just keeping me exactly where I am all the time, in a place that I don't want to mentally be. Lastly, this new big business idea or this new hobby that I'm taking on, for some reason, I keep thinking in my head that this needs to be my big passion in life. And I think about what my legacy is going to be on this earth. And I put a lot of pressure on myself in that way. And as soon as something doesn't start feeling perfect, or it starts feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I start putting the doubt in my head of, is this really what I want to be known for? Is this really what I want to be doing in 5-10 years? And the answer to that is, it doesn't matter. I can deviate from this if it doesn't feel like me anymore in a year or 2 years. I don't have to be doing this forever, but I'm not giving myself the opportunity to see what it could be in a year or 2 years. So this clearly puts enormous pressure on this little idea I had in my head of something that might be nice to try, in all of a sudden being this big deal that I need to make work, and that I need to be 100% what I want to do with my life. And if I spot a tiny little flaw in it, then I completely write it off. As I mentioned just now, this is a pattern of behaviour, certainly notable in me, but it's not necessarily a flaw. It's just a way of protecting yourself and your brain's way of saying, oh, we're out of our comfort zone here. Let's creep back into our comfort zone and keep you where you are because that feels safe. In other words, this familiar hell has got to be better than an unfamiliar heaven. But if you are naturally driven, if you're naturally creative, or you're naturally passionate, it's very, very likely that you have a lot of ideas of how you want your life to look, a lot of ideas of creative outlets that you can try. So I'm pretty sure if you are watching this, you can relate heavily to a lot of the things that I've just said. If you're wondering if you're broken, and things just aren't going to happen for you, then I'm here to tell you that you can fix it. I am actively in the throes of trying to fix it for myself now, and I'm going to share some of the things that I've been doing in order to keep myself on track and actually reach my goals. This isn't going to be easy. This is the way that you've always lived, so it's not just going to change overnight, and there is going to be some discipline involved here. So I've set a rule for myself that I'm not allowed to start anything new for the next 12 months. YouTube is my latest and last thing that I will be trying for the next 12 months. No more little projects, no more new anything. This and anything I've started previously are going to be my focus, nothing new. So if I were you, I would try the same. I would allow myself to come up with one more idea or even revisit an old idea that you liked and just put your focus into that for the next 12 months. 12 months will fly by. And if it doesn't feel right and hasn't taken off or hasn't achieved the goals that you want it to achieve within 12 months, then you're well within your rights to try something else. But 12 months is more than enough time to see if something's going to work. Now, just telling yourself that you are going to try something for 12 months doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. So how do you break the mental barriers in making yourself stick to something for 12 months all of a sudden when you've never been able to do it before? For me, it's allowing myself to know that this is chill. This isn't my legacy. This isn't necessarily my life-changing moment. This is just a little hobby that I'm giving a go, and I want to see where it will take me. This way, I'm taking massive mental pressure off this whole experiment, off this whole project. It doesn't have to be the thing that changes my life on its own. It can just be the thing that I'm giving a go for the next 12 months to see how much I can achieve. Another thing that I do often, and I mentioned it before, is pointing out little flaws in any idea that I have and then deciding that that's a reason not to pursue that particular idea because it's not good enough. Most businesses, most ideas, most hobbies have little flaws in them. It doesn't make them bad. And if you are spotting any flaws in your ideas that you want to take forward, that's fine. Just write up a little pros and cons list for your idea and then realize how many more pros there are than cons. The next thing I'm doing is trying to find the fun in the boring middle part. Again, this is a key issue of mine personally. After setting up all the exciting creative things like your landing pages, like your logos, like your branding, all of that stuff, you kind of just have to do the day job now. It's a little bit like starting a new job. You know, when you're the new person in the office or wherever, and you kind of follow everyone around and you shadow people and you get to just find out a little bit more about the job and you don't necessarily have to do anything. And then after the first week, you get handed a laptop and it's like, off you go then, do the job. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got to do something now. This is what this part is. And the difference is when you have a job, you can't say, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore. That's quite boring to me, or I'm not interested. You have to get on and do it. So you find the discipline in yourself to do it then, and that's working for someone else. So try and find the discipline now that you find then, but find it for yourself. Don't let yourself down. Carry on doing what you would do for a complete stranger, an employer, and do that for yourself. Another thing about the boring middle part, and I keep calling it the boring middle part, but we're trying to redefine what that is. This is the grind part. This is the part where you're actually starting to try and get results for yourself. Try and understand what makes the start so fun and what makes the middle so boring. Well, we've kind of mentioned this stuff already. The start is fun because it's novel. You're being creative. You've got new ideas about how you want this to look. It feels very exciting because you don't know what's to come yet. And then when you get to the middle part, you know what's to come almost because you're in it. And not much is happening. It's very, very slow. You're kind of staring at a blank screen, or you're going on a run and it's a slow run and you can't seem to run for more than 5 minutes. And you're like, oh, this isn't like being on the Lululemon site and picking out my new gym fit. This is actually hard work. So let's try to take the things that you have right at the beginning of this new idea, like buying the outfit, like buying the domain, like setting up the website, like writing up your branding, and try to insert little bits of that into this boring middle part to make it more exciting. If it's a hobby that you're giving a try for the first time and it was buying the outfit that was a really exciting part for you, then make yourself a promise that if you stick to this, in 3 to 4 months, you can buy yourself a new gym kit or you can buy yourself a new pair of trainers. Something that is going to keep you excited. Anything that made you excited at the beginning, that is going to make you excited in the middle. Another thing you can do, if this is a business idea that you're running with and the exciting part for you is setting up the domain, setting up the branding, leave that part. Go straight in and start doing the main work now, and then allow yourself to do the creative part a few months later. Because as someone who's done this so many times, let me tell you, buying that domain, thinking of the business name, creating the branding and the logo and all of that stuff is really exciting, and it is also very distracting. And you kind of forget what you're even doing because you're so sucked into the creative process of it all. So if you are interested in starting a new business, for example, and you have this great idea, just start creating stuff for that idea, not the branding, not the website, none of that stuff, not even the business name. Don't even worry about what the business name for it is yet. Just do it. Start doing things. If it's YouTube, just make a video. Start talking to the camera about your chosen subject. If you want to create a website, just start writing blog articles for it first. Don't create the website first, write the articles, because then you'll actually know if this is something you can bleat on about for 6 months. So write all those articles first. If you're able to keep up with writing articles for a specific subject matter, then you deserve the creative break of making yourself a beautiful website to put those articles on. The last thing you want to do is make yourself a beautiful website that remains empty because you couldn't be bothered to do the work to put the blog posts on there. That's just one example. One more thing that you can do that I find really, really helpful is looking at other people that are in your position or that have been in your position recently. Don't look at the big creators, the big entrepreneurs that are making millions and they have lots of views or they're being very successful in your chosen niche. Look at the people that are 6 months ahead of you. Look at the people that are a year ahead of you and see what that brings so that you can be realistic about what your results should be at the stage that you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months. I love watching different creators online. I'm sure we all do, that have gone on to achieve some really big things. But if you're looking at someone that's 10 years into their self-employment journey or their business idea or their hobby, where they're super fit and healthy, and you're wondering why you're nowhere near, that's because you're 10 years behind them. And that's not to sound disheartening. 10 years will pass whether you do the thing or you don't do the thing. Time is coming for us all. But you're making yourself feel bad because you don't have six-pack abs or because you haven't made your first million. No, of course you haven't, because you've just started and that's absolutely fine. Come back to those people in 9.5 years and see where you're at with them then. But for now, I would look at people that have just started 6 to 12 months before you and have a look and see what their progress is. And again, don't compare yourself, look at lots of different people and take note of all of the hard work that these people are putting in. Do they talk about how late they work at night? Do they talk about all the extracurricular hours they put into the thing that they're trying to achieve? And then, unfortunately, you're just going to have to replicate that. Making Excel spreadsheets about what your financial position potentially could be business-wise is not going to actually get you to do the thing. You need to just do the thing. I watched a creator recently and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. In fact, I am going to go and try and find her because, I found her video really, really inspiring. Okay, I found her. Her name was Tika Ghaffar. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm going to tag her down below so you can go check out her videos. But basically, she did a video about how she become a full-time YouTuber in 24 months. Note 24 months, by the way. That's 2 years of time. That's not 3 months, 6 months. And I was watching through her video and I did find it really inspiring. And she was mentioning all the things that she did right at the start of putting all of her YouTube videos together. And she talked about how she would be finishing work for the day and scripting a video and then finishing work another day and then filming the video and then using her lunch break to research new ideas. And she was working all hours of the day in order to make this work. And I thought to myself, the amount of time that I give to any of my chosen business ideas, whether that was my digital notebooks, whether that was my blog back in the day. And most of the time, I just did it when I had the mental energy for it. I didn't do it every day consistently. I just did it when I felt like doing it. That might have been every day for a week, and then I might not have done it for 2 weeks. And then I would be wondering why I'm not where I want to be, because I'm not being consistent. And I'm not here to try and glorify grind culture and, overworking yourself to the point of burnout, because that's absolutely not the case. But try and set yourself a limit of what you believe is genuinely achievable, and have a look at your downtime and what you do with it. And if you're doing things like scrolling on your phone, watching an inordinate amount of Netflix, 5 hours a night, for example, then yes, absolutely, you can sacrifice a little bit of that time in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve with your life. So yeah, I found that quite inspirational to watch her, and also a bit of a check, because I was like, oh, okay, this is really what I need to be doing in order to achieve my goals. And everyone's results are different, and success isn't linear. There are going to be peaks and troughs to our success over the course of time that we give to it. But yeah, checking in with other people that are in your space, that are a little ahead of you, but not leaps and bounds ahead of you, can be really inspirational, and a good way to check yourself to see genuinely what is achievable and what is not achievable. This is now my third YouTube video, and I've officially surpassed any previous amount of YouTube videos I've ever made. I think I've made 2 in a row previously and then knocked that on the head. So I'm very, very proud of myself that I've made it to the 3rd video, and I'm crossing my fingers for the 4th video. And I know that I'll make it happen because of all of the different ways I'm trying to make it happen, like I've just mentioned. If you have got this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps. I'm a brand new little channel, and I'm really trying to make this work. And for the sake of me not losing interest, it would be great if you could help me along. So yes, thank you once again, and I will see you in the next one.